Dark skin, blue eyes, straight black hair. In 1813, church records from the Virginia mountains label a community as Melungeon, a name that sets them apart. They are free in a world where freedom has a price. For 200 years, no one could explain who they really were or how they survived outside every category America tried to force upon them. Their DNA would turn every theory upside down. So what was the truth? What did every origin story miss? In 1813, a single line in the minutes of a Baptist church in Scott County, Virginia, captured the attention of generation to come. The word Melungeon appeared for the first time in writing, tucked inside a dispute between two women, one accused of harboring them Melungeons. The original page is long gone, but the transcription survives. That single word set an entire community apart from its neighbors. At that time, around 40 families lived in the remote ridges and hollows along the Tennessee-Virginia border. Their homes dotted the hills of Hawkins and Hancock counties, stretching toward Lee County in Virginia. They kept to themselves, farming rocky land that white settlers often ignored. Yet it wasn't just geography that separated them. It was the way they looked. Neighbors described their skin as dark, their hair straight and black, their eyes sometimes startlingly blue. These features didn't fit the categories that defined early America. Not white, not black, not native. The census takers and tax collectors didn't know what to call them. Sometimes they were marked as free persons of color, sometimes as Portuguese. The name changed, but the suspicion never did. What set these families apart wasn't just appearance, it was their freedom. In a region shaped by slavery and strict racial lines, the Melungeons owned land. Their names appeared on property deeds and county tax rolls. They paid taxes, voted in local elections, and served on juries. While other people of color faced constant threats of violence or dispossession, the Melungeons held on to their land and their rights. Survival in the mountains meant more than hard work. It meant navigating a world where legal status could change with a single accusation. For the Melungeons, every church record, every tax list, every census entry was a test. Were they white enough to stay free? Or would a neighbor's word or a line in a ledger strip them of everything? From the beginning, the stakes were clear. Identity was not just a question of ancestry or folklore. It was the difference between owning your home and being forced off your land, between voting and being silenced, between belonging and being cast out. The Melungeons lived every day with that uncertainty, building families and communities in the shadows of the Blue Ridge and the Smokies, always aware that a single word could change everything. Outsiders arrived in the hills of Tennessee and Virginia with questions, and the Melungeons met them with stories. Over the years, 5 legends took hold, each trying to solve the riddle of their origins. The first pointed to the lost colony of Roanoke. More than a century before the Melungeons appeared in church records, 117 English settlers vanished from the Carolina coast. Some speculated their descendants wandered inland, mixing with local tribes and eventually settling in the mountains. It was a story that offered English roots and a link to one of America's oldest mysteries, but it rested on nothing more than rumor and wishful thinking. Another theory reached even further back. Some claimed descent from Madoc, a Welsh prince said to have sailed to America in the 1100s. According to this tale, his followers survived in the wilderness, their language and customs lost, but their bloodline preserved in the Melungeons. No artifacts, no records, just a legend that promised noble ancestry. A third story pointed east. Ottoman Turks, brought across the Atlantic as indentured servants or slaves, were said to have escaped bondage and vanished into the mountains. The idea of Turkish lineage explained dark features and foreign-sounding surnames, but left no trail in the archives or the land. Then there was the shipwrecked Portuguese sailor story. According to family lore, sailors washed ashore after a storm, made their way inland, and settled among the hills. This story stuck. Portuguese ancestry explained olive skin and black hair. But it kept the Melungeons on the European side of the color line. It was a claim repeated in census records, court documents, and family Bibles. It was exotic, but safe. The fifth theory told of Sephardic Jews fleeing the Inquisition, hiding in Appalachia to escape persecution. This story offered a connection to a global diaspora, but found little support beyond speculation and a handful of surnames. Each legend promised a different origin: English, Welsh, Turkish, Portuguese, Jewish. None offered proof. By late 1800s, journalists and amateur historians flocked to the region, eager to solve the mystery. They left with more questions than answers. Inside the community, the Portuguese story became the shield. It explained difference without inviting danger, but as the stories multiplied, so did the doubts. Myths could only carry the Melungeons so far. The mystery demanded evidence, not just legend. Jack Goins grew up hearing the same stories as everyone else in his family. Portuguese ancestors, maybe some Cherokee, always something just out of reach. He spent years combing through courthouse ledgers and yellowed census records, trying to trace the truth behind the Melungeon name. But by the turn of the new century, paper trails had run dry. The only way forward was in his own blood. Goins ordered a DNA test, expecting it to confirm what he'd always been told. When the results came back, he stared at them in disbelief. The ancestry markers pointed to Africa, not Portugal, not the Americas. He couldn't accept it. He sent another sample, then a third. Each time, the answer didn't change. It surprised me so much when mine came up African that I had it done again. I had to have a second opinion, but it came back the same way. He wasn't alone. Other Melungeon descendants wanted answers too. Goins teamed up with Roberta Estes, a genetic genealogist. Together, they set out to design a study that would settle the question once and for all. They gathered DNA from men and women whose families had been recognized as Melungeon in the 1800s, 69 male lines, 8 female lines in total. Every participant had deep roots in the same Appalachian ridges and valleys. The group published their findings in the Journal of Genetic Genealogy, opening a new chapter in the search for origins. For the first time, the Melungeon story would be told not just in courtrooms or family tales, but in the language of science. The DNA results landed like a thunderclap. The Melungeons, for generations convinced of Portuguese or native roots, discovered something no family story had prepared them for. The Y chromosome tests traced most Melungeon male lines directly to sub-Saharan Africa. The maternal DNA pointed to women from northern or central Europe. Nearly every sample showed the same pattern: no trace of Portuguese ancestry, almost no Native American markers at all. The science was clear, even if the truth was hard to accept. But the stakes were never just about ancestry. In the courts of 19th century Tennessee, heritage could mean the difference between security and ruin. In 1874, a Melungeon woman named Martha Zimmerman faced the loss of her inheritance. The law said that anyone proven to have African blood could be stripped of property, rights, and standing. Her lawyer stepped forward with a story. Martha, he argued, was descended from ancient Phoenicians who had migrated to Portugal centuries before. The court accepted the claim. She kept her land. The Portuguese story, once just a family tale, became a legal shield. Wayne Winkler, former president of the Melungeon Heritage Association, later reflected, "It's sometimes embarrassing to see the lengths your ancestors went to hide their African heritage. But look at the consequences. It wasn't just one family. Around the South, nearly 200 communities, groups like the Carmel Indians of Ohio, the Brown people of Kentucky, the Guineas of West Virginia, the Redbones of Louisiana, used similar stories to survive. DNA would eventually reveal the truth, but for generations, myth was the only protection they had. Today, DNA exposes stories that paperwork tried to erase. In Appalachia and far beyond, hidden histories shape how Americans see themselves and each other. As science keeps rewriting ancestry, the real question is, how much of our identity is truth and how much is survival? Thanks for watching.